Hello and welcome to the Authority of Love, a ministry of love and lordship, where our vision is every life and relationship built on the love and lordship of Jesus Christ. I'm your host, Greg Williams, joined on this Family Foundation Friday by our wonderful co-host, Mr. David Walls. Thank you, David.
Greg, good to be with you.
And thanks to our listeners. Good to have them as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Or viewers. A few people watch this, I know, each week on video, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I had someone I go to church with me that heard us this past week for the first time on the radio.
Was it a positive response?
It was.
Okay, good.
At least that's what they told me.
Yeah, I kind of feel like sometimes, I don't know if you watch it much, I do occasionally, but the guy on, I can't even think of the name on ESPN, that used to be the punter for West Virginia and the Indianapolis Colts. Okay. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
And he had a podcast and it's gone huge.
Oh, okay.
And he goes, "This show is horrible, so we're just thankful that you watch it." And there's millions that watch him. So sometimes, but thank you again for joining us. By the way, first thing, we always pray before we go on air. And you prayed for the people in Kentucky, particularly Eastern Kentucky, and the flooding. And we want to remember that and know that you all as listeners are careful and compassionate to do that. And we just want to remind you to do that. There's a lot going on there and maybe more to come. Hopefully people are prepared. How's your family, man?
We're doing well. Progress on the house.
Nice. So, it's the ongoing saga, right?
Yeah, it is. Looking forward to celebration sometime soon.
Yeah. I'll wait for an invitation for the party.
People outside, no one else in our house except our family. That would be nice.
Okay. No party then. No party.
Yeah.
That's good.
A party of 5.
Right. I hear you. I understand, too. I appreciate your prayers. My wife has been battling flu and the symptoms for going on 3 weeks now, and so I appreciate prayers for Amy, and she is getting better, but it's just a long, slow process, as I've heard from many people that have dealt with this. My dad had it, and they didn't think he was going to make it, and so, but thankfully he has. But anyway, a lot going on. You know what our focus is, and you've got something that we saw this last week or so that came out from our friends up north in Ohio about marriage research, if you want to share that.
Yeah, so our policy allies in Ohio, CCV as they're known, they had partnered with Brad Wilcox and the Institute for Family Studies on a new what's known as the Family Structure Index. And so this is a new index. The goal, the hope, is to turn this into an annual index that evaluates all 50 states on the health of families, and it does that by really looking at 3 key indicators. One of those is the percentage of adults in a state that are married. The second is essentially the total fertility rate. And then the last one is a measure of the percentage of children who are still living in intact families. Yeah. So 3 really important indicators. And so that has been all put together. It's released. We've got the Kentucky data on our website at kentuckyfamily.org. But the big takeaway is Kentucky was ranked 13th in the nation in terms of this index. So
positively,
that's encouraging in some ways. So and really that's based on the fact that we have a higher than average fertility rate here in Kentucky. We have a higher than average marriage rate, both good. But the concerning thing is, and actually quite concerning, Greg, is we actually had the lowest percentage of teens who are still in married intact homes. So there's a lot of broken families. And look, we know there's a lot of brokenness in the family.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Across the nation. Here in Kentucky. And so our hope and prayer is that this index will give both policymakers kind of an ability to take a fresh look at some of this data to say, what could we be doing as a state to promote healthy marriages, to promote healthy families. Thankful that some legislators are already doing that right now. But then even bigger than that, a reminder to the body of Christ and to our pastors and churches of the need to just be proclaiming the beautiful reality of God's creative order and of marriage and family. And,
right from the beginning.
Right.
Jesus said, don't you know that from the beginning,
absolutely,
created the male and female for this reason, a man leave his mother and father, cleave to his wife. I'm totally in agreement with you there, David, as we often are. But that 40% or just slightly above that is not very strong. And I can tell you, having done this for 30 plus years, that fallout doesn't end when those teenagers become young adults.
Right.
It's often carried over and perpetuated.
Yeah.
And we see that, and I see that all the time, because when we neglect or ignore or diminish God's creative order, covenant order, you can call it that as well. When we do that, we are going to reap bad things.
Yeah.
And so we would be wise, not just start with the church in the home, but also as legislators to go, if we really want good society and good communities, we got to pay attention to this because it's foundational.
Yeah, and there's a couple of kind of policy proposals that they've released related just to get the conversation started as it relates to some of this data. One of those is something that Brad Wilcox, again, has been very involved in talking about, even in, I think in his recent book, about the success sequence, this idea that all of social data, social science shows something that the Bible has been teaching.
Exactly right.
From the beginning, I'll add that, graduate high school, get your education, get married, have children in that order. There's more to it, but that's what's kind of become known as the success sequence. And our good friend Representative Shane Baker has actually filed a bill, House Bill 294, that would introduce instruction on the success sequence into public schools. Yeah. And so I think that would be a really good idea. I know you've been involved in.
We did it for years, David, in the sexual risk avoidance, because that's the thing that short circuits it or derails it so often. And the other side has for decades now said, "Oh no, you're free, you're a sexual being, go have at it."
Right.
And this is the result of it, and it's been devastating. And so we seem to be turning the corner on some things. I believe that's God's grace. I hope that that's what it is. I know that He's involved.
Yeah.
But I do think that we need to pay attention to this. I'm so glad for Representative Baker and others who will take a stand for that and help get, much like some of these other bills we're going to talk about, that are moving through positively, and some we need to continue to pray for.
Yeah. Well, and again, if folks are interested to look at the full index, I know some folks like numbers and data and like to say, I want to see all 50 rankings. Right. I'll give you a preview. Yeah. Utah was the #1 rated state, and that's actually not surprising.
No, not at all. They're very serious about it, even if they're not on the same page all the time.
Right.
I'll say that.
So I'll just tease folks. Utah was #1. Rhode Island was ranked 50th. But you can go look at all the ratings on all the indexes. We've published it on our website at kentuckyfamily.org, and you can also click over to our friends at CCV, their website, and they've got even more detail there.
Excellent. Give us a rundown of some of the things that have passed recently and the things we need to pray for still.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful for everyone's prayers and engagement. I know some of the bills that we talked about last week and sent an action alert out about earlier this week have moved. So yesterday, on Wednesday, Greg, House Joint Resolution 15, that's the resolution to restore the Ten Commandments Monument to the Kentucky Capitol, was heard and voted on, and it was overwhelmingly passed by the full Kentucky House.
So it's going to the Senate.
So it is going to the Senate.
Likely
The
do well
vote,
there.
at least the vote of those that were there, was 79 to 13. There was a little bit of pushback against it. There was a hostile amendment that was offered, but that was voted down. But I just want to say Representative Shane Baker did a great job again, and I encourage folks, go read the resolution. It tells a great story of the history of the monument and its historic significance in terms of obviously the law and culture of our entire nation, of our Commonwealth, but the history of the monument itself is quite interesting, and so I'm optimistic it's going to move quickly through the Senate, and Lord willing, we're going to see it restored to the Capitol grounds.
Excellent.
Another important one that we touched on last week was Senate Bill 2, passed the Senate this week. That is a bill targeted at protecting our tax dollars from funding gender transitions for prison inmates. Again, not going to go into all the detail again, but this is in response to some egregious actions of Governor Beshear. And so while we continue to believe and advocate that we need even broader protections than that to protect all our tax dollars from radical gender ideology, thankful that bill is moving and is now passed the Senate, moved over to the House. One other one I'll mention, Greg, is a very important bill, Senate Bill 60, to strengthen Kentucky's existing Religious Freedom Restoration Act. As we know, look, religious liberty, it's our most foundational freedom, and Kentucky needs to strengthen our state-level protections. And so that bill was heard in a Senate committee this week and has passed out of committee and hopefully It'll be voted on next week in the Senate, and that bill will get moving forward as well. So some encouraging updates.
Absolutely. And I'll say this, and we got a couple more, but I just want to mention, we've talked about these, so I'm going to quickly do this. HB 397, Baby Olivia Act, which is basically life and human development in the womb.
Yeah.
We be praying for that and take action on that, as well as HB 316 and SB 106. Senate Bill 106 is to shut down the illegal abortion pill trafficking in the state.
Yeah.
Those are things that need to move forward, and with your voice being heard in your prayers, I believe they will.
Yeah.
And you've got one more we want to touch on just a little bit. I think we'll come back to this one, HB 12.
Yes, HB 12. So this week was also the bill filing deadline, so there will be no new bills filed from this point forward. And one of the bills that I'm really excited about that was filed on the last day by Representative Matt Lockett was House Bill 12. And this is really a really important bill, the next step in the battle to protect kids online. This bill would provide very strong protections for kids as it relates to social media sites.
Yeah.
It would provide a very strong parental rights protections, and it would also require meaningful age verification of app stores to ensure that that younger kids do not have access to social media sites. So a lot more to say on that bill. It was just filed this week, but a very, very encouraged to see that bill filed.
Absolutely.
House Bill 12.
Yeah.
And stay tuned. We'll be sharing more information
That's
about
wonderful.
that as well.
How can they get more information, David? How can they get more? I know you sent out a citizen.
Yeah. We have. It's our legislative edition of our Kentucky Citizen, and we've just about ran out of copies. So we demand exceeded supply.
That's good. That's
so
good
we're doing a second printing. So if your church would like copies of that, or you'd like to share some with your church, reach out to us at info@kentuckyfamily.org, and then you can also sign up to receive it on our website, as well as in addition to getting our emails. You can call our office at 859-255-5400.
Yeah. We got a couple things we want to close out with here that are activities coming up that I know you and I will both be at this one. Next Wednesday, just a few days away, and it looks like the Lord is really preparing some good weather for this.
56
I know,
is what I saw.
And
I'm
sunshine.
saying, Lord, make it be.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Hold on to that, weather maker. But that's the Kentucky March for Life at the Capitol, and then marching from there up to the Memorial for the Unborn. Both David and I will be there, along with our good friend Adia Wushner, who kind of hosts all of this and does a great job with that. Many others. You don't want to miss that. And then I've got one other, David. You can always get more information from us at loveandlordship@gmail.com. That's loveandlordship@gmail.com. Or go to our site, loveandlordship.com. But one of the things that I've been talking about a little bit and sending some things out, but I've been asked to share and teach a little bit on the Family and Friends Cruise this June 8th through the 14th, David. And so I know that you all said you'd mention a little bit, but we wanted to say a little bit about that. We're going to be having a 6-day cruise of the Western Caribbean, which sounds really good right now as we sit with snow all around
this
us,
week, take me there, Greg. Take me.
Yeah. So if you'd like to, again, contact me at loveandlordship@gmail.com. That's loveandlordship@gmail.com, and I'll give you the information, because we're only 3 weeks away, less than 3 weeks away from the deadline for that. Got a bunch on it already, but there's room for a few more if you'd like to do that, and excited to be able to do that with a lot of people and enjoy that. So, David, closing greetings for our listeners. Anything you got to close out with?
Look, we're halfway through pretty much the legislative session, so now's the time to engage and encourage your legislators to stand for righteousness.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for your prayers. Thanks always to the Lord. Make it a great day, and God bless in Christ. I'm Greg Williams with co-host David Walls. You're listening to Family Foundation Friday on the Authority of Love.